All right, it's about time that Arjen Lucassen has put out another album. He's fairly consistent. He's been putting out an album once every year or so, either within his, self-titled work or one of his many side projects and bands. And he's finally come back to just a self-titled endeavor. I think the last one that he did was Lost in the New Reel, which is probably one of my top 5 favorite records from him. If you haven't listened to the New Reel, you might want to listen to that one maybe after this one, because if you've listened to the Lost in the New Reel, you've pretty much heard this one. So with that all being said, let's dive in. Songs No One Will Hear by Arjen Anthony Lucassen. So Arjen is a Norwegian progressive rock artist, kind of getting his claim to fame within the Arjen project. But as I mentioned, he has done a plethora of other works like Star One or One Star. I always get those confused. A couple years ago, he did the Supersonic thing that I can't remember. He's also done a number of side projects, Gentle Storm Behind Me. And what he does really, really well is orchestrate a massive concept record with a lot of moving parts and a lot of different singers, guitar players, and make it sound unifying and sound like it's a single project. With so many cooks in the kitchen, it could feel like a mess, or it could be, kind of out of control. But Arjen has this crystal clear focus on all of his projects to nail the landing. Sometimes there's a little bit of a stumble, but more often than not, he's doing a 2-footer plant right onto the landing in that case. And this album, I would say, kind of continues that trend. As I mentioned at the very beginning, if you've heard Lost in the New Reel, which is very similar to this one. It's very similar in concept, in construct, and in execution. You have a narrator that's narrating this storyline. You have characters coming in and out, but really there's just kind of like one major story, and the ending song kind of brings everything together in a big final play out. The main difference, though, is this time we don't get a bonus track or a bonus disc with a lot more of this kind of like fun bop kind of music kind of throwing us all around. Where do I want to start with this one? First off, let's talk about the concept, right? The concept is pretty simple. We discover that there's a comet hurtling towards us and humanity is doomed, and there's literally nothing we can do about it. So what should we do for those last remaining months alive, knowing that there's nothing we can do and that we're all just going to die? And that's essentially what we have. We have Mike Mills from Toehider, who's worked a lot with Arjen in the past, being the main narrator, kind of in this like podcast sequence. And I kind of like that he's kind of doing the voice-conf that was present in Lost in the New Reel. Just kind of giving a little bit of context to each of these songs. Providing just a little bit of a introduction, so you're not just thrown right into it, because man, if we were thrown right into Shagathon, but, we're tackling some pretty heavy concepts of, the clock ticks down, which is really everybody coming to terms with what's happening, the goddamn conspiracy, which is this real? Is this not? And also kind of like comes through the 5 stages of grief, I think, as well, where you have denial, you have anger, you have depression, you have acceptance, you have bargaining. So you kind of have a lot of that intertwined within all these tracks. And for the most part, I would say that it is done very successfully. There's not a whole lot of musical albums that I can think of that tackle this. There's a lot of other media that do this, like video games. I know Majora's Mask has it. In terms of movies, you've got Deep Impact, you've got Don't Look Up, you've got Armageddon. So this is kind of a tried and true concept, but it hasn't really been put to music, at least in my mind. I can't think of any other album that has kind of tackled this concept. Now, in terms of the music, it's good. It's good. The music is really fun. It's a lot of a bop, and as I've mentioned, if you've listened to Lost in the New Reel, musically, you've heard this record before. Arjen knows what he does well. He's having a lot of fun on this record. He's getting a lot of other people to help him out on this record, so it's not just him. Flora Jensen is on vocals. Robert Stormbeck is also on vocals. Marcella Bovio, also on vocals, and Peter Daltrey is on spoken word as well as narration, kind of sprinkled throughout as well. And I think that's really kind of all I've got to say about this record. I mean, at the end of the day, there's not a whole lot more I can say that I haven't already said about any of Arjen's past works, including, again, Lost in the New Reel. Even though this album is a copy and paste, and even though it treads so heavily on the past works, I wouldn't necessarily say that this is a bad album, even with it leaning so heavily on those past works, where I would probably not give a pass to so many other artists and bands for doing something like this. I know Arjen is having a good time. Like, I know he's having a blast doing this. I'm sure he had a blast writing it and performing it. I'm sure he had a lot of fun with his chums, getting into the studio and jamming it out. And so I can't even really fault it for that, because I can feel the fun and I can feel the love that went into this album. So I can't even really give it a negative rating, because I'm having fun with them. Even though I don't think there's ever a world where I would listen to this album over Lost in the New Reel. So yeah, this is a head scratcher for me. This is a head scratcher because, again, it's a good time. It's a great time even. I would recommend people checking it out. If you're a fan of Arjen and his past works, give it a spin. You're going to have a really, really good time, even with some of the cringe-worthy lyrics that are found on this. I'm looking at you, Shagathon. But it's still a good time. It's still a fantastic time, and I couldn't help but bop around with it. So yeah. I know this is kind of a quick and dirty one, but that's all I really got to say about this one. In the end, I will say, Songs No One Will Hear by Arjen Anthony Lucassen is an album I would ultimately download. It's super inoffensive, and I think that's the bottom line for this record. It's super inoffensive, even with all the cringy lyrics that are found throughout it. I still had a great time. You know, at the end of the day, the take-home message is, even in the face of Armageddon, there's always hope, and there's always hope to be found. That is his guiding light and his shining star in all of his projects. No matter how bleak things are, no matter how dire the situation may be, there's always hope and there's always love to be found. So yeah, I'm going to leave it there. It drops this Friday. So what do you guys think about it? How are you excited? Once you do listen to it, do you love it? Do you hate it? Whatever you thought, let me know by commenting down below. And I am going to leave it there. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.